Live. Hey, this is Mark coming to you from Baker's Green Acres, and it's Thursday night, and that's the Anyone Can Farm live chat interview. And I have no other than the legend with me today. I have Joel Salatin with us, and you guys are he's well known to everybody that listens here because we talk about you quite a bit, Joel. So welcome.
Thank you.
And how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me on. It's an honor and a privilege. It's great.
Wow. I think it's an honor. Little background for my listeners. I was exposed to Joel back in 2006, I believe, where he spoke. He was a keynote speaker at the Michigan Small Farms Conference. And at the time, Joel, I don't know if I've ever told you this, I was being courted. I was only out of the military for 2 years, and I was being courted by Michigan pork producers. They wanted to put hog houses on my property.
Right.
And at the time, it sounded good. I could make 60,000 per hog house. And then I went to the Small Farms Conference and I listened to you. And at the time, I was having a hard time deciding who's telling the truth here, and I wasn't exposed to agriculture before I came out of the military. So in a lot of ways, if it weren't for you, this might not be happening. Right. So obviously I went with you.
Well, discovering truth is actually a very personal journey, isn't it? It's always a fascinating thing to me to I don't know, to try to decipher or figure out, what makes some people think one way and some people think another. When we came to the farm in 1961, for example, Dad asked for, he said, "How do I make a living on this small farm?" And we had both public and private consultants, come, and every single one said, plant corn, borrow money, build silos, graze the woods, buy more chemical fertilizer, all that. And we didn't, Dad didn't do any of that. He went completely opposite, but that was orthodox. I mean, what makes one person just assume that, well, that's the right thing to do. I mean, advice coming from people who are in that position of collecting that paycheck because they couldn't figure out how to make a living farming, and they're now telling everybody else what to do. It's always amazed me.
It's very easy to see how that would happen. If you're a kid in high school, that's all you ever hear. And so you just think that is real farming, big tractors and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I'd kind of like to set this up a little bit for our viewing audience. We have a saying around here, and we quote Ralph Waldo Emerson. I'm sure you're familiar with him. You're a pretty astute writer. And he's from where I'm from. He's from New England. And he had a saying. He said, "Do the thing and you will have the power. Do not the thing and you shall surely not have the power." And I got to tell you, one of the things that sets you apart from a lot of the people that you hear that pontificate about different types of farming is you are involved in your farm. And I know that for a fact. Not only have I been there, but I know people that know you, and they've told me that you're quite involved with the farm. And so my first question would be for our viewing audience, what goes on at Polyface? What's the mission there? And how much involvement do you have with that?
Yeah, so the mission's real easy. We have a very simple mission statement. Our mission statement is to develop ecologically, emotionally, and economically enhancing agricultural prototypes and facilitate their duplication throughout the world. So if you think about that mission statement, it really has a very practical front end to develop these prototypes. I mean, so you gotta experiment, you actually do it in these three parts. that satisfy or enhance these three parts. And then the final part is facilitate their duplication throughout the world. So there's very much a teaching, informing, encouraging, facilitating, catalyzing element to this. And so that's where we are. That's our mission statement. So what do I do? Obviously, I've aged. Daniel, our son, runs day-to-day operations at the farm. So he's now, day-to-day operations, actually, managing it. If the cows get out, I don't go chase them anymore. He gets a couple people and goes and chases cows. So I'm now chief visionary. That's my official title, chief visionary. But I'm also chief negotiator. So, for example, right now I just met the other evening with another family that wants us to manage their property and mentor them into this. And so I'll be working up a 5-year arrangement with them. So, that's kind of my where I spend time practically on the farm. And then yesterday I actually spent 2 hours taking around. We had the dining services administrators from 4 nearby hospitals come, and they want to see the farm, potential customers. So I put them on a hay wagon and took them on a tour around the farm, and so I spend a fair amount of time doing that. As far as practical day-to-day work, I still move the egg mobile. When I'm here, I move the egg mobile in the morning, and I'm in charge of our cows here at home in the morning, and not in the morning, in the afternoon. I'm here in charge of our cow herd here. We rent several properties, and so we have 1,000 head of cattle in several groups, and so I manage the one here at home. And then, so I'm putting up cross fences and and handling where they're going to go. And then I'm also still the chief chainsaw guy. So if we need lumber, or if a lumber order comes in, we need logs. I'm the one that goes out, selects the trees, cuts them, and gets the logs handled. When we chip, we have a big commercial chipper for our bedding for winter livestock. And, we chipped, I don't know what, 25, 30 tractor trailer loads of chips a year. We have a big industrial Vermeer chipper. And so when that goes on, I'm the chainsaw guy. I go out and, work the chainsaw. Somebody else runs the chipper. Somebody else runs the skid steer to feed the trees into the chipper. And then you got another person, hauling the chips to the shed and piling them up. So I still, my tool, my favorite tool is the chainsaw. Everybody who really knows me knows that. And I think if there's, if we ever hit peak oil and there's only one gallon of gas left in the world, it should go through a chainsaw.
Okay. What's your favorite brand of chainsaw? I'm curious.
So we run Husqvarna's.
Okay.
And basically there's two, there's Steel and Husqvarna. Those are kind of the two biggies. Yeah. And we happen to really like the Husqvarna, so we pretty much run it. Although I now have an electric Steel that battery powered, and that's the best tool I've bought in many years. And I just carry it with me everywhere. And man, does that come in handy when you come up against something that's too big to chop with a mattock or something, and you can just pull out a little trusty electric chainsaw. And it's great for pruning trees. You can go up on a step ladder. It doesn't it's not running. You just push the button and it's light, and you prune a tree, that sort of thing. It's a great tool. And I tried to buy a Husqvarna electric chainsaw, but I've never had a company try not to sell me something more than they did. And I finally gave up and went and got a Steel. So, and it works great. We love it.
How about that? How long of a bar does it have on it?
It's only got a 12-inch bar.
Okay.
The thing only weighs about, I don't know what, maybe 6 or 7 pounds. It's very light. But now I wouldn't want to cut a pickup load of wood with it. Okay. So anybody listening, don't get your hopes up that this is gonna, we did not get the heaviest one. We got, they make 3 kinds, and we got the middle one. We didn't get the lowest one. We didn't get the highest one. We got the middle one. But I'm told that these guys, you know, that this technology is coming on, you know, pretty aggressively. And boy, you know, for just you know a tree down across the road, you know, a big old autumn olive or a multiflora, you know, that's gotten away, and you're trying to do something, you know, pruning up some trees, some black walnuts or whatever. I mean, it's just an invaluable little tool.
Good. That's good information. That's one of the things that we like to live by here, is we like to pass on information.
Right.
Our group is called the Anyone Can Farm Tribe. I'll do a little shameless plug right here, and I'm going to make sure you get one of these, right? And you'll actually get a complimentary membership. And there's a lot of neat videos and stuff there, and
Sure.
Jill's blog and stuff like. You might find it interesting, but the pictures are good. I think you probably know how to build fences and things like that, but we're gonna make sure you get one of those. Okay, my next question. This is not a hard interview for me, because we've off and on spoken over quite a few years, and I remember it had to be 10 years ago. I was asked to speak at a place out in California, Grass Valley, and I was informed that, oh, you're going to have to ride along with the Salatin family, and it was a 2-hour ride, so we got to talk quite a bit, and that was a real treat for me, because here I was reading your books, and I had decided to follow in your footsteps, and I wound up sharing a ride with you for a couple hours. It was really a big treat. But during that time, you had asked me a little bit about what was going on, the struggle that was going on up here in Michigan with the feral swine and all that stuff. And I had told you a few things about it. My question to you at the time was, where does this end? And you said to me, there are entities that are on a race to the bottom. And there was an interruption, and I never did really get to question you on that, but I feel as though that has something to do with your latest book. So could you introduce your book and kind of weave that in, if you remember that conversation? Maybe not.
Sure. I don't remember that conversation. I have so many. I have so many conversations. I can't even begin to keep them all straight. But you're talking about my newest book that's not out yet. The title is Homestead Tsunami.
Yes.
Yeah. So there's one of the most common things that questions I get today is, how do I disentangle? I mean, everything seems to be bottoming out. The banks are bottoming out. Defund the police. You know, society is bottoming out. Public education is bottoming out. You know, look at critical race theory and you know, the drag dancing during story time and all that. Yeah. You know, there's just seems to be, you know, if you're a Bible believer, you know, Romans chapter 1, there's just a reprobate move to the bottom on so many levels of our society, including food nutrition. Mm-hmm. You know, now the new darling of food is fake meat and lab grown junk, and so you know, so here we are at this, and so people who are thinking and looking at these trend lines are realizing, man, you know, I need to disentangle from this system, and I need to build resilience. And so you know, it's one thing to run away, and as things bottom out, you begin realizing that if there's one place I don't want to be when the wheels fall off, is I don't want to be in a city. You know, I want to be somewhere where I can shoot a deer and raise a garden and, you know, cut some firewood and you know, build a sod shelter if necessary. But, you know, there's this understanding that I don't want to be in the city. But what actually makes this work is, yeah, fear makes us move. That's for sure. Fear makes us move. But that does, running away from something does not empower us. It's not long term. You can't run away forever. At some point, you have to run to something. And so I get why people are wanting to run away, but I think what you and I are after is we want to present a platform that they can run to in faith, and understand that this is this is a better way to live. And so as I see what's going on in the world, one of the hottest trends right now in the U.S. for sure is what I call a homestead tsunami. There are people jumping out of urban settings. They're cashing in their 401k plans. I mean, the people are realizing the ultimate 401k plan that's supposed to give you security is actually not nearly as secure as being proximately living next to people you have a relationship with who know how to grow things, fix things, and build things.
Yeah.
Grow, fix, and build. And so those are kind of that in my view, that's the new sustainable 401k plan.
Yeah.
Grow, fix, and build. Because if you know how to do that, and you know other people who know how to do that, you can withstand a lot of whatever abuse by the culture. And so that's what I see, and I think that's where we are. And I certainly, a lot of people aren't jumping, but
Right.
a lot of people are, and I want to encourage and empower the people who are making that, who are running away, but are realizing ultimately we've got to embrace something better. And that's an exciting place to be.
Yeah, I totally agree. I can add a little anecdotal evidence. We've got a little bit of a chicken butchering business. We do custom chicken butchering on Fridays, so people drop off their birds on Thursdays. And we had 2 customers today, and it's pretty common now. And you can tell they ain't from around here. And so I'll question them a little bit, like, where are you from? And I get like Flint, Lansing. And I'll say to them, so you escaped while you could. And every time it's like, yeah, we had to get out of there.
Mm-hmm.
And then one of the first things people will do is they'll say, well, I got to raise chickens, because that's the beginning.
Sure.
So good. I want to change subject a little bit, and this one's near and dear to my heart. This was another conversation that we had, and it was about milking cows. And you had said that you had a concept. It sounded like a concept. I may have developed it in the time that you said it to me, but it was the 10 cow concept, the 10 cow dairy. And would you like to talk about that a little bit? That's a very good how-to stuff.
Well, yeah. So our family, a lot of people, they look at where we are today, with basically generating about 22 salaries from our farm, and the scale is just, crazy in my opinion. But people don't realize that for the first, roughly 20 years that our family was here, we were basically a glorified homestead. Dad worked in town as an accountant. Mom was a school teacher. The off-farm jobs paid for the mortgage. That's really common. And so we grew up basically with a big garden. We picked all the wild fruits we could find, wild cherries, wild blackberries, wild dewberries, different things. And we always milked a couple Guernsey cows, and we always raised a couple hogs, and basically grew our own food. There was no going concern until I came back to the farm full-time September 24, 1982. So I'm sitting here, I'm a teenager, a late teenager, and I'm committed. I really want to make a living on the farm. I don't want to do the town commute thing. I want to actually live here, be here, stay here, and be a full-time farmer on a little small farm. Well, how do you do it? Well, I always enjoyed milking the cow. I thought that was relaxing. It was enjoyable. And at that time, there was a curb market in Stanton. It was a forerunner to today's farmers market. It was started during the Depression, and so I had my chickens, I had my eggs. We had these 2 milk cows, and so we're looking for where do we sell this stuff, and we found the curb market in Stanton, which by that time during the 30s and 40s. This place was like a local Walmart, if you can imagine. There must have been 50 to 80, vendors. You could buy everything. You could buy pies and chicken broth and meat and cured ham and everything there. And it was all uninspected. None of this was inspected because what the market worked out an arrangement with the inspection service that if the vendor was involved with extension programs, men through extension programs, women through back then the home demonstrations club. It became the women's homemakers clubs. But anyway, if you were involved in that, then the state the state agents had a memo of understanding that that the inspection people would assume you're up on the latest greatest and you're a good Joe and a good Jane and we can trust you. And so we could butcher a beef in the field, cut it up on the farm and sell it down there. No inspection whatsoever. We made buttermilk. The only thing we couldn't sell was fluid milk. Otherwise, we could milk butter and cottage cheese and yogurt and that sort of thing. And so here I am. I'm 17, 18 years old. And I'm thinking, how do I get back here on the farm full time? And I said, you know what? I could milk 10 cows by hand, just milk them. Yeah. Plenty of people used to milk 10 cows in very small dairies by hand. And I could sell the milk to neighbors. People wanted this is back in the mid 1970s. And people want, and the price would be the same at retail, like in the supermarket. I worked out the budget and I said, man, I could make good money milking 10 cows, just selling the milk retail at regular supermarket prices, not jacked up organic or grass or anything. I mean, people hadn't heard about organic back then. They hadn't heard about grass fed. No, nobody knew about A2. Nobody knew about anything, but our customers were coming to us because it reminded them of what they had at grandma's house. That's what they were doing. We didn't have this, the big local food, Michael Pollan hadn't written yet. And so, and so here we were, and I made this kind of business plan. I said, man, I could milk these 10 cows, make a nice living here. But there was one problem, Mark. It was illegal. And I've never gotten over the fact that my neighbors wanted it. I wanted it. Goodness, the farm needed it. The community needed it.
Yeah.
But bureaucrats got in the way and would not let this. And between me and God is that that when God forgives, He forgets. He says He puts it as far as the east is from the west, and remembers it no more. I don't know how He does that. That's totally divine because I can't forget. Now, forgive, I can forgive, but I've never forgotten the fact that the government, what was right and noble all the way around. It was noble for me to milk cows. It was noble for them to eat grass. It was noble for my neighbors to want good, nutritious milk. Everything about it was noble, except the government didn't like it. And I've never gotten over that.
Yeah. It's pretty obvious at this point that they're running defense for their buds in industrial ag. It's pretty obvious.
Yeah.
So the way the law reads here in Michigan, and there is actually a law, it's a Michigan codified law, and I have it. It says that you cannot sell raw milk to the end user. Mm-hmm. And they write it that way so that some state policeman doesn't pull over a semi full of raw milk, because that would indicate that raw milk is a controlled substance, which it is not. So anyway, I've thought about that a lot, and we started milking one cow just for our family. I got a big family, got 8 kids, and then we got another cow, and now we got 5. And this property was actually built as literally a 10 cow dairy. There's a book that's written about this area and the Dutch people that came here, and they came here with a plan. They weren't like refugees. They were coming to a place where the grass was greener. And a 10 cow dairy, they were making a white collar salary back in those days.
Yes.
And I guess milk was like 40 cents a gallon. And now we can get $10 a gallon for raw milk. And $10 buys about what 40 cents did back in the 20s. So it's about the same. So
yeah, commodity milk in the store, you can still buy commodity milk in the store for what, $3 or $4 a gallon.
I guess I haven't bought it in so long. I remember when it was just $1.99.
I've never bought it. I remember well that when I was making my business plan to do this, I remember well that the price was, as I recall, it was somewhere in the neighborhood of $2 to $2.50 a gallon at that time. This was late 70s, right there.
Well, now's the time to sit down with the pen and paper and extrapolate it out at $10, because then you really get to see. And now we have the freedom now to do it. I'm doing it. I'm doing 5 and do the Milkshare thing. And I guess they want to be able to have access to it, but they're going to have to really work at it to get access to my records, because I'm not going to give it to them. It seems to me, unless this is a controlled substance, they're going to have to work at it a little bit. And it doesn't seem like they care that much anymore. Have you noticed that the regulators are a little bit less intrusive in the last few years?
There are pockets. It kind of comes in waves, and you hear about. I definitely think overall we're not getting the kind of the SWAT team stuff that we did back in the back 10 years ago.
Yeah. And
of course that's very exciting to see happen. But you still have pockets where some local bureaucrat will need to make a statement, and it's very insidious. I mean, for example, we co-own a inspected slaughterhouse up in Harrisonburg, and since we're small, we're kind of the training ground for new meat inspectors.
Yeah.
And so we're always getting these young inspectors in, and they don't know. And so, twice in the last 5 years, we've lost, I don't know what, $30,000 worth of beef liver, which is a hot, grass finished beef liver is, clean beef liver is one of the hottest things you can get in the wellness, the nutritionally dense wellness community. Anyway, because ours is grass finished, many times our liver will have just a very slight kind of green patina. I call it a green patina around the edges.
Yep.
And two times in the last 5 years, for almost a year, we've had all of our livers discarded because they said they were bad. And the thing is, you can't, and it's completely inspector driven. You go, I mean, we couldn't get enough slots in to our own facility, so we actually went up the road 50 miles to another similar place, and got all of our livers back. We've done this more than once, and from the same cows, same farm, same liver. There we get them all back. Here we don't get any back, and and so that's maddening, because if you say anything, then you make them angry. What do you mean you're questioning me? How dare you question?
Right.
I'm the inspector. I've got the big badge, and so then you make them mad. Well, then they start looking at everything, and there's no recourse. And that's why
Right.
I so appreciate what you've done, is you've just completely gone, outside the system. And I salute and honor that in you. And it is, it's true bureaucratic extortion is what it is, because they can condemn your product. They get their paycheck no matter what. They don't care if your business survives, thrives, or goes bankrupt. And it's completely subjective. And frankly, most of these inspectors don't even know what they're looking at. They don't even know what they're looking for. I mean, I was down back years and years ago. We had a client out of state that wanted chickens, and they wanted them federal inspected. So we found a little poultry processing plant down in North Carolina. So we took the chickens down there to get them processed so they have federal inspection. And I'm standing there next to the inspector on the line as their chickens are coming through. He's got a basket full of chicken livers in front of him. Got a thermometer in his pocket, little card that he's putting down the temperature on. Well, this Mark, I know you've butchered chickens before, and you know about the gallbladder on the liver. And for us here at our farm, if we bust the gallbladder, it happens. I don't care who you are. Once in a while, you break a gallbladder, getting it pulled off the liver. And if we break a gallbladder all over the liver, we throw that liver away. You just can't clean it all off. And so here was this guy, federal inspector. He's got this bin full of chicken livers in front of him, and it was totally green. There were busted gallbladders all in that thing, totally green in that whole basket of livers, but they were perfectly fine because they were at temperature. All that mattered was the temperature. He didn't care that it was all green and busted with gallbladders. That's the kind of stuff you see, within the inspection service. So yeah, it's maddening. I don't know what got me on that tear, but people who think we'd have cleaner food if we had more inspectors have no clue what they're asking for.
Right. Well, I had Jill write this up here before we started. You remember the Rogue Food Conference where I put that on the podium?
Yeah.
Sometimes it disturbs me a little bit when I hear somebody go on about how bad inspectors can be and the horror stories. Like, remember Farmageddon, that movie? There was a lot of horror stories in there. But would you agree with me that we have the ability to opt out of that system as small farmers?
Yes.
Because I certainly have.
Yes, absolutely. We do have that option, and we should. And in fact, at our farm, we've had now many discussions about where we go. Our chickens are still under the PL 9492 exemption, and so we do everything uninspected as much as possible. However, we do sell to a VA hospital. We sell to restaurants. We sell to gourmet supermarkets, and we sell a lot of stuff by the cut. We ship nationwide, and so there are certain things. I'm not going to say that you have to do, but we anybody that knows me knows we've had plenty of battles. And I don't wake up in the morning wanting another battle. And I don't think even as aggressive as you are, I don't think you wake up in the morning wanting another battle either. Who wants another battle, right?
No.
And so and so you have this tension, within you, and we've certainly been outside the system. We certainly are inside the system. We're known as the junkyard dog. And so, here we are. And I've had numerous people who have conversations with some of these, high up inspectors in Virginia. And they say, thank you for breaking how do they say it? Thank you for breaking the waves so that we can do more than we would have been able to do otherwise, because you broke the waves. And so, sometimes there's, we're all different. We all have different, different missions, different things. And so, I think there's room for all. And so, we've chosen to, we own a little federal inspected slaughterhouse, and it's a wonderful service for the community, and it lets us, get into markets that we would never be able to get in otherwise. So, there's room for that as well. But it's still it's still very frustrating. And even though we own it, I don't go up there very much. I go postal when I go up there. So I just kind of stay away and utilize them.
Yeah. Well, what happened with us? We had a court case against the state, and we prevailed. And because I was a licensed butcher shop through the state, that was their avenue to get payback.
Mm-hmm.
And so we didn't really see this, but we just knew we didn't want them to have access to get payback, because they'd always come with the state police and always make a big deal out of it. And I don't want people to get scared by hearing that. But as soon as we did not renew our license, we had no agreement with them. There was no contract with them. And then we fell back to the Fifth Amendment to the U.S. Constitution and the Fourth Amendment, which prevents them from coming on unless they have a warrant or an invitation. And so now I'm free from them completely. And I'm no big fan of the USDA or MDA at all. I think they're kind of useless. They don't provide a whole lot of utility to us for what we pay for them. But it was very easy for me to step away from it. But even now that I've been operating in that capacity for, I think we're on our 6th or 7th year, we butcher cows, we butcher everything. We do what we want, so long as it's legal, no human sacrifice or anything like that. They've never moved in our direction since then. Not once. Yeah. And I don't think they want the publicity. They've got a good thing going with their licensing shtick. Yeah. And I think they'll, and what's interesting is I will tell people this, and they have this cognitive dissonance. They tend to believe in the regulatory agencies more than they do, somebody that's walked away from them. So, I can live with that. But it's sort of like when you're telling everybody, when you're on the Titanic and you're telling everybody, hey, we better get in the lifeboats. And people are saying, no, they say this won't sink. I'm going to stay here at the bar. And then I get in a lifeboat and it's like, hey, there's plenty of room in here for us. So we're good. I see that happening now. And I really don't try to talk people out of it generally. Let's see. I have one really special question, and this is like a utility question. And I wonder about this all the time. What does Joel Salatin carry on his belt?
What do I carry on my belt?
Or pocket.
You know what? I don't think I've ever been asked that question. And I do. I don't know what I do. 4, 5, 6 podcasts, guest podcasts a week. So kudos for you for getting a new question. So what do I carry on my belt? A flip phone. I don't have a smartphone. I'm still the flip phone guy. So I don't text. I don't receive messages. And this thing works, about part-time. So I got a flip phone. And then the other thing is a Victorinox multi-tool, not a Leatherman. And I don't have a vendetta against Leatherman, but if you compare the craftsmanship between the the Swiss-made multi-tool versus the Leatherman, you'll never go back to a Leatherman. This thing is really, really slick. And just to show you how long I've had this one, I'll pull out the. So here's the knife. I don't know if you can see it very well, but it's almost like a little toothpick now. It's probably about a third. Yeah, it's about a third of the size that it was when it was new. So I've had this. So it shows you how I really pride myself in not losing stuff. And so I've had this thing for at least 10 years, maybe 15, and haven't lost it yet. So those are the two things I carry on my belt, the multi-tool and the flip phone.
Yeah, I figured you for a multi-tool guy, but I just wasn't sure what kind. You didn't seem like a Gerber guy to me. No, I wouldn't think so.
No, I'm not a
But
Gerber
I thought
guy.
possibly a Leatherman guy. I'm a Leatherman Surge guy. I love them. I'm addicted. I cannot leave. When I was at the podium at the Rogue Food Conference, I had my Leatherman on me. Yeah.
Yeah.
I cannot go any place without it.
Yeah, I wish I could take it on the airplane, but of course they won't let you take it on an airplane. Yeah. My son Daniel is a diehard Leatherman Surge. That's his favorite, Leatherman Surge. But he's never had one of these. The only reason that I would be too, I think, but I had somebody give me one, and I didn't actually buy this one. Somebody gave it to me, and once I had it and saw the craftsmanship, I said, you know what? So now that this one's so old and worn, I've actually bought another one, and it's on the dresser so that if I ever lose this one, or it actually, I finally take my knife down to where it's nothing, then I have another one to use.
Do they give you a pretty good warranty on that one? Lifetime warranty, maybe?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna have to check that out. I've just had a Leatherman forever, and I really like it. I actually have two of them because if I lose one, I can't go out of the house without it. It's just not gonna work. As soon as I get out there,
that's right.
I'm gonna need it.
It's like going out without your underwear or something. I mean, you just can't do it. Yeah, I'm with you 100%. Now I say I haven't lost this one, but I have put it down in the shop or something and forget to pick it up, and I'm out in the field suddenly and I don't have it, and you have this moment of panic. Oh no, oh no. Well, what and you're tracing it now. Where did I have it last? And you go back, and boy, when you see it, you're so thankful.
Oh, I appreciate that. Okay, well, I have kind of something I'd like you to expound on a little bit. We're coming up close on time. I don't want to keep you. This has been a real treat. I want you to know too that you've made a huge impact in this country. I want you to know that, and it's been a positive impact. You've made an impact on just about everybody I hang around with now. My circle has really shrunk down to just farm people. I was in the military before, and that's kind of a killing business, and it really wasn't that great. Good memories and stuff, but this business, I love this business, and there's going to be people hearing this that are new to homesteading, and a lot of them don't even know why they're getting in homesteading. They just know that they're fleeing from the cities. If you could talk to them a little bit and maybe encourage them, like, okay, here's maybe where you ought to start. This is a good place to start, and just in Joel Salatin fashion, bring them along and pump them up.
Are you? I'm just trying to make sure I understand the question exactly. Is this a how-to question or a why question?
Well, we just love to hear in You Can Farm, you said just start
Oh,
someplace, and then
yeah.
one foot
Okay.
in
Great.
front of the other
All
and
right.
things like
No, no.
that.
Yeah. Yeah. Fair enough. I'm with you. All right. So, so many people, they say, well, I can't do anything till I get land, or there's always some, I've got to be out there. And I'm a big believer in incrementalism, and in you're not given more until you show faithfulness with a little. You show faithfulness a little, and then you get more, and you get more, and that. So start with what you've got, where you are with what you can. If you're in my book Polyface Micro, I actually talk about how to have chickens and rabbits in a Manhattan apartment. Okay, so I just think there's almost no limitation on what you can do where you are, and if you're faithful there. I meet thousands of people. I travel the world. I just talk to so many people. Every time I meet somebody that seems like they have the greatest hardship, then I meet somebody that has a greater hardship that was able to do something. And I'm remembering a guy, like for a guy in Alabama, an African American fellow. He came to a seminar, and he'd been he had no fingers out past the second knuckle because he'd been burned terribly in a fire, and he just had these nubbins. And his name was Billy, and I'll never forget him. And he got fired up about pastured poultry, built a couple of the shelters, started taking these chickens to farmers market, and this guy was on fire. He was I don't mean that as a pun. He'd been in a fire,
Yeah.
but he was articulate. He developed a market. He was doing thousands of chickens in a state where nobody would expect him to be able to do anything. And he was positive and excited about life, and just exuded enthusiasm. I mean, he didn't complain. He didn't whine. He didn't say I'm entitled to anything. I don't even think he was on disability payments. I mean, nothing. He just went out and did it. And I mean, you meet those kind of people. And I met a lady up in Edmonton. She comes up to me. I'm doing a presentation up there. She comes up to me and she said, she's in her late 40s. She's not not in her 20s, and she's living in a fifth floor condominium in Edmonton, big city. She says, I wanted to farm, but I didn't have any money. I didn't have any land. I'm in this condominium. What do I do? She said, I had a friend who had a backyard. I knew one person who had a backyard. So she went to this friend. She said, could I put a little garden in, maybe 10 feet by 12 feet in your backyard? Lady said, sure, go ahead and put it in. So she went and put in this little garden. Well, the next neighbor over saw the garden and said, wow, that's beautiful. Do you think your friend would put a garden in my backyard? Now, you see where this is going. I met her 18 months after that first garden. She was farming 20 backyards, full-time business, quit her employment. All of her farm tools she mounted on her bicycle. She bicycled from backyard to backyard, these 20 backyards. She had a part-time employee, and she was full-time farming in Edmonton, in backyards, growing food for people. And the name of her business, you're going to love this. The name of her business was On Borrowed Ground. And I could just go on and on with these stories. With people that seemed, I ran into another lady. She and her husband, they were young newlyweds. They were living in this this apartment complex, and she's I want to do something. So she went to the landlord. She said, could I put a little garden here by the apartment complex? He said, sure. We got this, we've got plenty of on here. Just put a little spot in there. So she put this in. The landlord was so impressed with it that he said, you want to expand it? She said, sure. Before you know it, she's in charge of the entire landscape program of the entire apartment complex. And she's getting paid to do the landscaping work and grow the food. I mean, just be creative. Don't let small stop you. You can put beehives on the roof. You can put a vermicomposting bin under the seat. You can put hanging patio, PVC pots with cups in them to do a hanging herb garden on your porch. There are so many things you can do. And what happens is, as soon as you begin blossoming where you are with what you have, you'll be amazed at the collaborations and the networks that organically develop from the magnetic attraction that you bring to life in that kind of thing. So yeah, man, go do it. Go do it.
That's great. That's great. We hear a lot of times, well, when I get land or I don't have any land, I hear that one a lot. And we separated off, we paced off a 1/4 acre and a small garage on this property. And the guy, Covey Bali, Neethi's son, he's 19. He's interning with us this year. He's been here for a week, right?
Yeah, I knew that. Yes.
Yeah. It's going pretty good. It's going pretty good.
Good.
And he's going to develop that as a 1/4 acre homestead. And we're going to just jam it with everything that we can and show, hey, you could do a lot on a 1/4 acre if you really want to work at it.
Absolutely.
Oh,
absolutely.
awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. You can stack things. You can, get rid of the lawn. You can do edible landscaping. There's just a plethora of things you can do.
Okay. Well, we're about out of time. I really appreciate you coming on and just enlightening us a little bit. Got a few minutes. You got any parting shots?
Well, my parting shot, Mark, is that for whatever 60 to 70 years, Americans have been told that you don't have to participate in the foundations of life. You don't have to garden. You don't have to cook. You don't have to be involved with your kids' education. You just leave your food, your farming, your life up to us. We'll give you hot pockets and Lunchables and packaged processed DiGiorno's frozen pizza. And guess what? You'll have more time to watch the football games, go to soccer games and play video games and watch Netflix. And you'll have this life that's free, that's free to pursue all these other things. Well, then suddenly we have COVID. And then and the supermarket shelves go empty. Then suddenly Putin invades Ukraine. Fertilizer goes through the roof. Petroleum goes through the roof. And we're being told by people like Bill Gates and Klaus Schwab and Joe Biden that billions of people are going to starve to death. And suddenly, with all these black swans and events and going on, suddenly this life of non-participatory convenience to have freedom suddenly looks like shackles of slavery. And those of us like you and I who embraced chores, we embraced milking the cow, planting the garden, canning green beans, being involved in our kids' education. We embraced that. All those foundational, mundane parts of life that people laughed at us and said, oh man, you're wasting your time. Suddenly, guess who's free? Guess who's experiencing liberty? Guess who didn't care that the store shelves were empty? Guess who didn't care that fuel prices tripled? Guess who didn't care that fertilizer went up 4 times? We're the ones that are ultimately free. So that my parting shot, Mark, is that ultimate freedom and liberty comes from participation. You cannot unparticipate your way to freedom. You have to participate your way to freedom. And people in our tribe understand that. They embrace that. And I just want to put my arms around everyone and give them a big hug and say, thanks for taking the reins of your own future in your hand and disentangling and participating in life.
You do a lot of these podcasts, Joel, and I remember one time you said that this is your ministry. Is that a consistent lineup there? Is that why you do this?
You mean what I just said, or
I mean,
yeah?
I mean,
yeah.
You're doing a podcast now. You just gave an hour of your time. You could be watching Dances with the Stars or something.
I don't
Is
have
this
a
your
TV.
ministry?
I don't have a TV. I can't watch it. So no, it is ministry. I mean, like I said, at the top of the thing, I gave my mission statement. To develop these economically, emotionally, and environmentally enhancing agricultural prototypes and facilitate their duplication throughout the world. And part of facilitating throughout the world is absolutely doing these podcasts, messaging the message, ministering to folks this message of hope, so that ultimately, Mark, look, if we want to make a list, if you and I wanted to make a list of all the things we're angry and frustrated about right now in our culture, we can make a pretty big list, right?
Sure.
But ultimately, all that does is just give us ulcers and heart failure. What we have to do ultimately is if you want to make that list, make the list. That's fine. But then look at that list and say, what's the solution to this? The solution to this is to invert all this and develop our tribe that is completely opposite all of this, so that when society becomes hopeless and helpless, we offer hope and help to a dysfunctional system. That is sacred, noble, and righteous, and is attractive and magnetic to young people, old people, middle-aged people. Anybody can get excited about offering hope and help when society becomes hopeless and helpless.
Amen. That's a spiritual aspect right there. There's a gap in the human heart for those types of things.
Yeah.
Really appreciate you, man. Thanks for coming on.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Mark. Thanks for having me. It's a delight, and blessings on you and your family.
Okay. We'll be talking to you. I'm going to have a few comments for my immediate tribe here, so I guess I'll let you go.
Okay. Thanks, Mark. Take
I'll
care.
see you, Joel. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you. Bye.
How was that? Last night I was working late. I had worked all day, and then Audubon, Kavi. How do you know Kavi? Anyway, I'm working late, and by choice, sometimes work can be like, just one more type thing. And I'm thinking about this interview tonight. I'm thinking, wow, look at how far we've come in a short period of time. Is this because we're providing a super service, and we cut our hair the right way or whatever? And I had a bunch of questions in my mind, and so I was scrolling through my phone to listen to something, and there was an interview, Joel Salatin with Joe Rogan, of all people. Joe Rogan. I don't listen to Joe Rogan that much, or ever. It's usually subjects I don't really care about. So I listened to it, and I thought it was very interesting that this guy is on the Joe Rogan podcast, and the number of views on that was just off the chart. The millions and millions and millions. It's a huge podcast if you don't know. I think he's the biggest podcaster in the United States. And then the next night, that same man that he interviewed was going to be on our show. So I thought that's pretty good. I appreciate the tribe, and I appreciate being able to bring information like that to you guys. And I think everybody should kind of embrace that and feel like, hey, we're in good company. You know, we're in good company. I met him probably would have been back in 2012, outside of a small farmers conference, and it was after we were going through this problem with the state, and it was still looming. And a friend of mine said, "Hey, let's go down and see his place," and we did. And that was the first time I shook hands with him. Was down there, got to see his place and hear him speak and stuff. And I thought, you know, this is the direction that I want to go. And I haven't looked back, you guys. I haven't looked back, and I don't plan to, except a couple times when I was going to get me a shrimp boat. But now I'm dedicated to this, and I'm moving forward. So that's good to have that interview behind us now. I'm going to listen to that. I really appreciate him coming on. He goes on Joe Rogan, and then he goes on the Anyone Can Farm live chat. That's cool. That's really cool. So let's see. I'm expecting rain at the end of the week. And so I was hauling hay in today. I got in about 30 bales, and I still have a few to go. And then next week I'll be cutting hay, actually. And it was kind of ironic that he was the one that brought up the 10 cow dairy and that he would like to do it. And it was just the regulatory environment in his state was such that he didn't think that he could do it, or he couldn't do it. We used to think that here too, but actually here it's easier than just about any place. You just have to set up cow shares, and no one, if they were to say, well, we want to see your paperwork, I'd say, well, I want to see your underwear. You're not seeing my paperwork. This is private. Run along, So you can do cow shares, and it's pretty easy to do. We're having very good luck with it. I think I would like to go and work my way up to 10 cows. This barn that we have here was actually a 10 cow barn. And I had shown you guys a long time ago the milking parlor under the hay mow. And for a long time, I didn't even know that's what it was. And then the little building off of that is the milk house. And it was full of junk, and it had broken concrete, and it was just a mess. We never did anything with it. And I had said, well, I'd like to make this into a kitchen and make that a meeting room in there. But then we found out that, wow, we have got too many people coming here to use that small of a space to have a meeting spot. We're thinking it would handle like 20 or 30 people. We've got 100 people showing up, and sometimes more than that. So we're actually working on building a building, and at first it's just going to be a pavilion, and it's going to double as a hay storage shed. But Keith Sutton, one of our friends here, he had some trusses, and last November our clearspan building blew away in a bad storm, and there was nothing there but the foundation. And so these trusses will fit nicely over that foundation. We'll have to pour a little concrete, but it'll be worth doing. And we'll have a space where we can gather, when we do classes or just get-togethers in the wintertime. So really impressed. If you do the thing, you will have the power. The idea of Tribe Plus is to show you how to do the things so you can have the power. And the concept that I'm talking about here is, and I brought it up with Joel, a very powerful voice that he's got in this community. But I know people that have been to Polyface and worked there. And when he goes out to do his chores in the morning, he is on them. And he takes it very seriously, and he enjoys what he's doing. But he is dead serious about what he's doing. And I've thought about that over the years because I have things to do in the morning, stuff I got to do every single day. And sometimes I might not feel that way. And I say, you know what? I need to choose to feel that way and just really enjoy my work. And if I am having a hard time wrapping my head around enjoying my work, just think about punching a time clock someplace and going and doing a job that you absolutely hate and you're just waiting for 4 o'clock to come. Just think about that. I may occasionally have something go wrong here, like we did the other night, and animals get out and go in the garden. But we secured them. It worked out. Everything was fine. Today was a outstanding day. I don't know how automotive or Audubon Automotive knows this guy, but he must know Neethi. Neethi, I interviewed Neethi like a year ago, and she's the gal that runs a food church down in North Carolina. She calls herself the pharmacist, Neethi the pharmacist. And she asked me if her son Kavi could intern with us. And I can share some of this. I'm sure this is great, good stuff. And I said, yeah, maybe that would work out. How old is he? She's 19. Yeah, okay. I had met the guy at the at the Rogue Food Conference. Their table was right next to mine. And, I had spoken. And so then I'm sitting there kind of looking around, listening. And there's this boy. So he must have been 14 or 15. And he had been told to videotape the whole thing, and he didn't have a tripod. And he kept that thing steady. And he was just on it the whole time. And I thought, wow, he must be getting tired holding that up. And I even commented when we were leaving the conference, I said, hey, you did a good job. You're really a good soldier with that camera up there. And so I had a little bit of rapport with him. But anyway, he showed up here last Wednesday and just drove up. And, Raleigh, North Carolina, it's not like Marion, Michigan, that's for sure. And I have seen culture shock before in young men that really want to do something, but then they get into a different culture and it's like, oh, wow, this is different. And for a couple days, he was a little froggy. And, we sat down and had a talk, and I told him what my vision for him was in this mentoring program. And he has taken to it like a duck to water. And it's just really good to see a young man that just knows what he wants and he's really going for it. I've had a lot of young men work for me over the years in the military. And when you get a certain type of guy, you tell him just enough to intrigue him. You don't give him, I need this done. I'll say, I need this done. And I don't tell him exactly how to do it. I say, you can look at that, or you can look at this plan here, and then I'm gone. And so he's forced to, adapt and overcome. And then when I would come back and he had done a pretty good job, I'd say, hey, that looks pretty good. And all right, pretty good. And there was some other issues too, like the place that he's staying doesn't really have any amenities. I mean, it's doesn't leak, we can say that, but it doesn't have any water, doesn't have anything, like no air conditioner or anything like that. And I said, but you can change that. And he wants to be kind of a MacGyver type guy. So he's been every day making a little improvement. And I was really floored yesterday when he says, well, I moved this piece of wood out here because I'm going to take a shower out here. And at first he was like, well, where's the shower? Does this place have a jacuzzi? Kind of fun. But I think I might consider an intern program in the future. I may do that. And what's nice about having Kavi here is he's he's kind of going through the fire. And I think if he chose to come back at some point, he would be a good lead man for a internship program. All right, let's see what we got here. I'm going to read some of these comments. I'm going from last to first. That really is cool to have the Joel Salatin on your live chat. That is better than many things on my bucket list. I missed it, but I hope to be able to watch the recording. Yeah, that's the cool thing about these. They're recorded. I talked to him for about 3 minutes before we started, and we did have a little bit of technical difficulty. And, he didn't say, hey, don't talk about this and don't talk about this. He didn't do any of that. So he's pretty open and honest guy. I wanted to talk to him about being canceled, because he does not hold back. If you've noticed, he tells it like it is. Emily says monumental. Thank you. Best thing about that statement, my tattoo reminds me of that. When angels are no more, self-meaning of when you can't see the wings of light, I will have wings to help others come back. Catachrome. You should post a picture of that tattoo on the tribe. Lone Star. How you doing, brother? Sean saying thank you. I guess I'll be seeing you this weekend, Sean. Audubon, beautiful work. Right on. Lone Star, I could have answered this. I wasn't going to ask him this because I already know. Getting involved in politics to help change stupid. He loves his job too much. Maybe I should have asked him. Maybe I should have. Henrius Great Shrimp. Who are some of the leading names in the grass farming movement? Well, probably just Mark Baker. And then there's Joel Salatin too. Yeah. He's been at it a while. Isaiah, I'm one of them. My 401 has been happily placed into our farm. I wonder if I'm seeing you this weekend, Isaiah. I owe you a phone call. We got cut off the other day. Me and Joe were at the lake, and it just quit. Ghost says steel is the best. Never had a problem with one. Yeah, I never had a problem with a Husky either. I had a McCulloch when I was a kid, and that was the best thing going. A McCulloch 1010. I had a Makita. I had a Makita for a while. I wore that thing out. Gasoline. Yep. I had a Makita plug-in when I lived in Japan. I built a wood stove, and I had it in my Japanese house. That was dumb. Brian Jacob, right on. See you this weekend, buddy. And Belva Rockwell. Jay-Z. All right, cool. That's it. All right, you guys, cool. We've got the pasture poultry class going on this weekend. More and more that I'm doing this, I see that all of these classes really come together and they really connect. So, and I am so looking forward to this class. We've got, I think there's 30 people coming, and it's always fun. Anytime we meet and discuss how to do things, it's really cool. I differentiated when we started the class with or this podcast with Joel, that we've tried to keep this channel more of a how-to. And I think when you're leading people to do things, you talk attitudes and you talk how-to things. And I think it's helpful to understand if you do the thing, you will have the power that you have. If Belva was to come here and we were talking about sheep, she knows what she's talking about because she's done it. Jay-Z were to come here and we're going to talk about butchering cattle, he knows what he's talking. I would enjoy that conversation because I've done it a lot, and I don't want to talk to somebody that knows the academics of it, like an inspector, say. they've never actually done it. They got a degree in something or other and they needed a job, so the Department of Ag picks them up, right? So the do the thing is very, very important, and the power that comes from it. When you get that power, embrace it, and then go on to the next thing. You should be collecting skills right now, just like you collect baseball cards. And with that, I'm going to pack it in, get something to eat, and kiss the wife. Good night. Everybody have a good weekend. And remember, anyone can farm.